Namaste. Welcome. Let's start with a short moment of interiorization and also evoking the divine name, An-Nur, light, the supreme light, the light of consciousness. Please close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Relaxation. Interiorization. Centering ourselves in the middle of the chest. A little to the right, one finger to the right. The openness of the heart. The openness to divine light. We set this purity of intention to open to light. And synchronizing with the breath, we mentally utter during exhalation, Ya, that means O. During inhalation, Nur, which means light. Or you can say it in English or in your native language, O light. Ya, inhalation, like absorbing this divine light. Deeper and deeper meanings of light. And we continue. surrender to the radiance, the light of the heart. Keeping the awareness of the heart. We gently open the eyes and you can continue being aware of the breath during exhalation, Ya, during inhalation, Nur. Continue to evoke the supreme light, the absolute light of consciousness. If possible, try to continue during the whole satsang and all your life. Today, during this satsang, we will continue to speak about the nafs, these stages in the development of the human soul according to the Sufi tradition. We explain the relevance of this. It's a way of purifying ourselves our soul, in order to be more transparent to spiritual realities. And last time we spoke about the first one, Nafs Salamara, the commanding or tyrannical self. And today we'll speak more about Nafs Lavama, the regretful self. Still, we are going to continue to speak, to finish about the first Naf. We didn't finish that presentation. Actually, these are the ideas during this satsang, a summary regarding the remedies of Nafs Salamara. Then just a little bit the influence of the first Naf in the pop spirituality, so in the superficial spirituality of our time. So it's exactly how, when this limiting ego tendency interacts in spirituality, what is happening. Then dangers of this within sanghas or spiritual community. And then we will speak about the characteristics of the second nafs, the regretful self, about its spiritual limitations, about the main shadows of it. And speaking about the main shadows, also I feel that it will be good to have an understanding how we can confront and heal our vulnerabilities and wounds with divine qualities, with light and with compassion and love. So we will speak about the healing process, which consists in recognition, lowering defenses, allowing the divine qualities to penetrate. And then about the transformation, also in 3 stages, an alchemy of pain, an expansion of consciousness, and finally an integration. Even though we speak about this transformation of our soul and how to deal with the wounds, I feel that it's needed to have a clear approach, and I hope this will be very inspiring for you. We will also speak about hypocrisy, which is one of the features of the shadows of Nafs Satsang, and how that reflects in the modern life, and then about spiritual opportunities and suggested practices. I hope you will have time to approach all these topics tonight. So briefly, last time we spoke about the specific remedies regarding ignorance, pride and arrogance, fear and resistance to change, material attachment, influence of a limiting environment, and lack of motivation. Please review whenever you feel that you or a friend of yours would need some support. It's good to refer to all these elements and remedies there. Just to continue about remedies of such features of the first nafs, of the first level of our soul, limited ego, skepticism. So when there is skepticism, we can approach in this way. Start with tangible benefits. So instead of just speaking about very abstract and not down to earth aspects, it's good to focus on tangible benefits. For example, meditation. Meditation is not about revelation of the self. First, it's about stress relieving tool, or calming the mind, or whatever can relate to that person rather than a spiritual endeavor. Of course, later on, those more profound aspects will be relevated, but revealed. But it's good to start with small steps when we deal with a skeptical person. Then also insist on practical aspects, not on just abstract theoretical elements. So make people feel the peace that comes in a deep meditation, or the joy of selfless service when you help others, the spirit of karma yoga, but with a joy. So something that can be experienced in a very simple and very direct way. Also, softer engagement. So instead of pushing techniques and rituals and tiring elements, rather pleasant and uplifting spiritual actions, reading beautiful passages of literature that bridge logic and spirituality, because we are speaking about skepticism. Yes, even in retreats we give, for example, many quotes of great physicists, quotes of Einstein or Bohr, of Max Planck, of Schrödinger, about their vision of reality, and then that can be also support for the skeptical. Regarding education and knowledge, awaken the dormant curiosity by reading and so on, sometimes understanding the limitations of the ego intellectually can be a start of a deeper exploration. It's a matter of a shift of learning to see out of the box, to go out from the old paradigms. In connection with this is a beautiful Indian story about a trapped elephant. It is said that an elephant was just walking in the forest and he fell in a pit. And many people tried to bring it up. And they tried, and it was so heavy that it was impossible for them, and it was really difficult. But then a sage old man saw all that situation and just went to the elephant and whispered some words to the elephant, and then the elephant just rised and then just jumped and went out of the pit. So this is the story. It's a Buddhist story. Well, we may ask what the sage said to the elephant. We don't know. It's actually exactly this not need to exposure or just to assume what that was said, because this whisper of the ineffable, it's exactly what should be honored. Is so open, so it's not a truth of a Buddhist of the Buddhist religion or another religion. It's just that impulse that can suggest this impulse that can take us out of the pit of the ego. So this whisper is like the whisper, we can say, the whisper of the Dharma in the case of Buddha, no? Speaking about the teachings that takes the ego or the soul overwhelmed by the ego, takes out of the pit of ignorance, no? Like the elephant goes out, no? Like in the Zen story with a little goose who was in a just raised in a bottle, and then slowly the goose became so big that she was just as big as the whole bottle there. And then the question is how to make the goose go out from that bottle without breaking the bottle and without wounding the goose. And in this Zen story, or Zen Quan, no, riddle, the answer is just like this. The goose is out. So it's exactly that shifting, that illumination that comes. So yes, often changing paradigms or looking at things in a completely different way is what can help us and takes us out from our being stuck in skepticism or whatever. Then immediate gratification need, which exists in our times very much because our culture is emphasizing this. It's good in this case, again, to highlight immediate benefits. The meditation can reduce stress, brings peace, and so on. So, like quick fixes. In reality, meditation is a lifelong commitment, a commitment to reality. It's not just a quick fix. But we don't need to say this in the first, in such a stage. No, it's just 30 minutes or try, and so. Then celebrate small victories, set short-term milestones, just 1 week of daily meditations or whatever. Also, reflection on impermanence, meditating on the transient nature of life, the inevitability of death and the impermanence of pleasures can be a way of helping people to detach from just that obsession to just quick results and superficial aims in life. Then an incremental habit formation, like 5 minutes of awareness or 5 minutes of gratitude, just gratitude. Just a little bit every day, in the end of the day. This can help and then gradually increasing. In terms of healing with the divine names, Al or Al Sabur or As Sabur, the patient, the most patient, the all-enduring patient one, is also a way of instill this quality of patience, which in somebody who is looking just for immediate gratification is obvious that it's missing. Then Al-Mujib, the responsive one, the one who responds to any request. So again, we can refer to these qualities. No, you can be patient, you can be responsive, but when we refer to this as divine qualities, that is not anymore personal. I mean, it embraces the personal, but it points to that universal. So I'm patient, but what would be, no, to be patient in eternity, or that absolute patience? And then the responsive, I am responsive, but what would be that which responds, which is responding in that loving way to everything? So the patient and faith that God responds to those who call upon Him, even though initially it seems that it doesn't happen, and therefore I just focus on just little things because there I can find easily answer or pleasure. Then sometimes feeling overwhelmed by the concept of God or of that supreme reality, then personalize the spiritual journey. We don't have to start with grand concepts. It is what is happening now, even for some spiritual teachers in our times prefer to speak instead of God about the present moment. No? Pointing to that supreme reality as that moment that transcends, no, the temporality, is not just this second and the next second, is that eternal dimension that is there. And that points to the supreme reality, at least a little bit. Of course, being aware of the present moment now, present moment, is already a moment of expression, pointing to that depth. But definitely, it's not the same as after 1 hour or 2 hours of centeredness in the heart and going deeper in meditation. So, but it's a good introduction. It's a good way to realize that yes, there is thoughts, there are thoughts, there is all this samsara phenomenal world, but then it's also something. Or seeking a better version of ourselves. No, it's a good way of referring to first a personal journey, like an improvement of personality, but then realizing that there is something beyond that. And going to pure I am, beyond thoughts, I am. And thus, slowly, slowly, the journey can go deeper. Also, Al-Mumim, the giver of peace. For someone trapped in the impulsive and chaotic tendencies of the Nafs Salamara, invoking Al-Mumim is a way of cultivating peace, faith, spiritual security, the trust in divine order. It's just this capacity to see beyond any veils or fears or sense of limitation, as Rumi said in a beautiful way. This taking the veils of separation in prayer. He said, the ego is a veil between humans and God. In prayer, all are equal. So in prayer, we are all equal. When that veil of the ego dissolves, the essence, the light meets the light, the awareness of the awareness. And then also negative past experiences as specific remedies for this, for people who were traumatized in connection with spirituality, in a cult or in a sect, or so emphasize the intimate, peculiar nature of the spiritual journey. It's not about dogmas. So yes, maybe in the past we were forced to be taken to the church by our grandmother or whatever, but it's about an intimate journey. And then also go or bring the attention where there is joy and there is a sense of flow. So for example, music or devotional nature, then bhajans or devotional Sufi music, Qawwalis, and so on. If it's more physically inclined, yoga, hatha yoga classes, or mindfulness or whatever, slowly, slowly, in this way. Al-Tabab, the ever-returning, the acceptor or of repentance, offers hope and the possibility of returning to the divine grace. We were wounded, or there was an openness, and then disappointment, and then this is what will help. About attachment and aversion, we speak widely in yoga. Raga, dvesha, attachment and aversion is what maintains the ego. And we would just say self-inquiry, this question, who am I? As a way of witnessing and detaching more and more. In the end, it's important to understand that it's not just about finding new remedies or new practices. It's not for us to look for new practices, but it's mostly about recognizing and gradually detaching from all behaviors, habits, and thought patterns that served as chain in this condition of the ego. So it's more of an understanding and detachment from all those limitations. Of course, many means, many techniques, practices can be very helpful, but essentially it's about dropping some old habits, tendencies, and all these are just supporting this, but the intention or the realization should be there. I need to change that. Something needs to change. And it's interesting when we begin to oppose the ego. So when, for example, our addiction is stopped, we just realize how powerful was that. As long as somebody is smoking every day, it's there, it's not a problem. But when he starts to stop, recognize how powerful that habit is there. So many things are ingrained in our subconscious and feel quite simple, but then we see the power which was there, the compulsive power. This is exactly this nafsalamara, the commanding self, actually was commanding us, was manipulating us in doing this. And whenever we try to free ourselves from that addiction, bulimia or whatever, it's a huge power there. It's not that it's not, it cannot overcome it. So definitely we are much more than just a habit, but it can be seen as a very powerful manifestation. And sometimes It's indeed like a curving energy. For example, we may carve lust, but then, so it's not lust, okay, we stop, we understand that it's not lust, it's not good, but then anger comes, no? Anger comes, and so on. And knowing all this, it's good to act with awareness, with detachment. And of course, as Ramana Maharshi was teaching us, this self-remembrance is the best way, if we can, if we have the clarity, is the best way to realize that freedom and then to detach from all this. As Hafez said, I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness the astonishing light of your own being. It's an act of compassion here. And it seems that, oh, we are so far from that when we are in that darkness. And it seems that, oh, I don't need this, don't tell me about who I am, or that I am light, or that I am spiritual, the spirit, or that I am God. Because it's an indulgence in that pain or in that suffering, and it seems that nothing else exists. That's why this compassionate way, I wish that you would know, that you would remember. And in order to heal this, it's good to remember again and again, not in necessarily moments of crisis. In moments of crisis it's more difficult, but just a remembrance. No, more and more. The astonishing light of your own being. It's like in that Zen story when a thief came in the hut of a Zen master. The Zen master was there meditating, and the thief entered looking for something to steal, and he was completely disappointed when he saw that the master doesn't have things there. So before leaving, still the master gave him his clothes, no, to just have something to. So the man left happy. He got something. And then the master, naked, was just contemplating the moon and just saying, I wish I would have given him the moon. Which speaks exactly about the same. It's not about giving the physical moon, of course, but it's about this freedom. No? Either we are just oriented to materiality, or I wish I could help such a human being to see this beauty. And in that beauty, many things are naturally dropped. In that beauty, we can resonate in a different way, unified in a different way. And before concluding with these remedies of the first nafs, I'm going to mention also Yoga Sutra. In Yoga Sutra, in the second chapter, Patanjali gives, again, he also gives some remedies for limitations. So what is the remedy? Very simple and easy to remember. Cultivating the opposites. When I am in sadness, joy, or anger, peace, cultivating the opposites seems difficult or seems so obvious or whatever, but it's simply like this. It's simply like this. So when unwholesome tendencies appear, cultivate their opposites. Patanjali says in chapter 2, Sutra 33, 34, for the repelling of unwholesome tendencies, the yogi should pursue the cultivation of their opposite. Unwholesome tendencies such as harming and so on, whether done, caused to be done, or approved, whether arising from greed, anger, or infatuation, whether modest, middling, or excessive, these have their unending fruition in ignorance and suffering. Thus, the yogi should devote himself to the cultivation of their opposite. It's good to understand also the context in which this appears. In Yoga Sutra, Patanjali speaks about yama and niyama, about this foundation of yoga, about these moral aspects like truthfulness, satya, non-violence, ahimsa, and so on. So he exposes all these yamas and niyamas, and then these two sutras come. And then he continues by mentioning what transformations are coming when the qualities, the divine qualities which he recommended in yama and niyama are followed. For example, he would say the yogi who would respect all the time satya, truthfulness, the truth will manifest in his life. So whatever he would say will become truth. The one who is in ahimsa will radiate in non-violence, will radiate peace around him. So it's like a paranormal power by cultivating exactly these noble qualities. And he put it in this context. So yes, all these yama and niyama are useful because we need to compensate those old tendencies of ours. Why do we need to compensate this? Well, it's quite simple, because if we stay in just arrogance or in just anger and frustration, we will suffer. We will suffer. There was no human being who just by anger and violence attain a state of freedom or a state of spiritual transformation. It's quite the opposite, with the opposite, no? With the opposite qualities that people were transformed. No? So it's good to remember all these. Now, briefly, how we can see the shadows of this Nafs Alamara, the first one, in our modern world, in what we may term pop spirituality, no? In this shallow spirituality. Again, this immediate gratification when we are looking just for states, nice workshops, just about feeling, sharing, but less about the depth of a spiritual practice, then commercialization of spirituality, in which yes, there is this fascination for very fancy resorts, five-star spirituality, and retreats in very special places, and so on. Then misinterpretation of traditions, when we take from the whole, for example, Hatha Yoga, as in Hridaya, for example, we speak about texts like Hatha Yoga Pradipika, in which Svatmarama said, the one who doesn't understand the meditation and doesn't practice that awareness of subtle sounds will waste his time fruitlessly practicing that only just Hatha Yoga. And then this is never mentioned in the modern times, and many such situations in which we focus only on the physical aspect and not on the spiritual aspects. Even the definition of asana, according to Patanjali in chapter 2, Sutra 46, 47, 45, 46, 47, the asana is immobile, firm, and comfortable. It is attained when the effort disappears, and there is meditation on the infinite. So it's a meditation on the infinite in asana. From now on, the yogi is not disturbed by dualities. What dualities in just physical yoga? No? Then egocentric spirituality, in which is just very much about how good I am, how special I am, and this elitism, that cult of personality, which also can happen, and then the focus on power and paranormal powers. People are just following because it's something kind of esoteric, but then it's just this looking for occult powers and magic is not about that spiritual dimension. All these are like the ego is biting there, and we are just lost in different such tendencies often. And then briefly also the dangers in a sangha, in a spiritual community, ego clashes and hierarchies. Always the ego thrives on distinction and superiority, is when in a superficial, artificial way, people just tend to make hierarchies. I practice for so many years, therefore you have to listen to me, or I am superior because of this or that. Of course, the experience matters. Of course, a maturity comes through perseverance and practice and many, many such experiences, retreats, and so on. But it's not for showing this or to make this as a proof or to impose that to others, because that will emphasize duality, would emphasize separation, not that love and that compassion and union. I, for example, recently heard about a very beautiful community long time ago, was the Findhorn community, just to even to mention. In 70s, 80s, the founders of them were able to communicate with subtle entities, and then amazing things. They were cultivating plants in a very dry and sandy soil there, and they had like incredible results, and nobody could explain unless we would accept the intervention of something special. So they would speak about this communication with angels and so on. And then, of course, unfortunately, sometimes when the founders leave the physical body, and then things tend to dilute, and then I heard from somebody who lived there that there were some tensions, and then when she came again, I asked, but still are things? Oh, there are again. Actually, somebody who was kicked out, he burnt one of the buildings there, and things like this. So it's definitely not a wise. But this comes. It's already there. It's not out of nothing. I mean, yes, it can happen when a crazy person is, but when that is just the result of just constant struggles and tensions, you can feel that is not wise. That is not a harmonious community there. And then also misguided teachings and shallow practicing. It is happening also when, instead of focusing on deep, authentic teachings, people would focus only on just physical or materialistic aspects, or, for example, it's more of a focus on administration. Administration is so important, but then instead of honoring the teachings in themselves, we are just focused on materialistic aims and money and advertisement, and this ignoring that beauty, the core of the teachings. So again, selfishness. Then isolation from other perspectives, like a closed-off community can become like an echo chamber in which we just hear ourselves. It's a selfishness in a group, and then we tend to resist any other perspective. It's exactly this sectarian view, and it can be supported by things that, yes, in general can be true. No, we say, oh, all the world is decadent, it's only us here who are so special, and so on. And of course, this is a limiting aspect. Remember a French teacher, Arnaud Desjardins. He was also a spiritual master, and he traveled a lot in India. He made some beautiful movies, La Sagesse de Tibetain, also about ashrams in India. And he himself, being a spiritual teacher, shared how he was together with a Sufi master, and some disciples of that man were there. And one of the disciples started saying, I may not be, so it was on a traditional Sufi lineage, but he said, I may not be on the most spiritual path or the best path. I may not follow the best master, and he confessed about his transformations, and so that was in the presence of the master. And for Arnaud Desjardins, this was a sign, if you know that if the disciple can say, I may not be with the greatest master in the presence of the master, this it's a good sign. No, how can you dare to say something like this to me or not? It's a good sign. Also, in-group elitism, a sense of superiority over outsiders or over other traditions. We find this also in religions. It's only us who are the best, and so on. This breeds division. Exploitative relationships, the leader worship, and materialism. So these are the elements which I wanted to share about the first nafs. And with this, we start speaking about the second nafs, the regretful nafs, nafs al-lawama. This is even more fascinating, I would say, for us, because we can relate in spirituality much more with this. And I would say that seeing many people coming in our meditation centers, it is this issue, a lot of traumas, a lot of problems, a lot of tension, struggles. This is very much this stage of the regretful nafs. It has also good parts and, of course, problematic parts. The regretful nafs, of course, is a soul that regrets, a soul which is still in struggle. No? If the first one, I said it's in a way predictive, because somebody who is, you may know, a friend very much addicted to alcohol, then he may have, of course, different moods, but you know that is his tendency. Here, with the regretful, things start changing, because this person sometimes indulges in those tendencies, but then starts realizing this is not okay, I should stop. Sometimes it's not so powerful, the will is not so powerful to get rid of that, and then it's a lot of struggle. So that's why with Nafs al-Lawama, the second one, we are in a transition phase. It's the spiritual journey of self-awareness, not the ultimate self, but the self, like I start becoming aware of my subconscious, of my tendencies, of my whole life. I'm not just taken by desires, no? And it's also with this self-reproach that pushes us to strive for a higher moral and spiritual state. So we can say that it's a pivotal moment where we become increasingly conscious of our actions, intentions, and our relationship with the divine. So in this sense, it's a very beautiful. And then here is the whole problem, because there are two vectors here. Either, yes, from here we go upper and upper, and it's this impetus, I will not remain in all those old errors, or I stay in that regret. I did this, and I stayed constantly in that sadness or in that regret. And unfortunately, I could see many people stuck. I did this, that happened 10 years, and still I feel that trauma. Still I have my traumas from childhood, and I define myself still through that. This is very much this stage of the regretful naf. We look in ourselves, in our soul, and it's regret. No? It's very much like this. We say ideally it's our responsibility to make our soul a paradise. And looking at these stages over these satsangs, we'll see how that can happen, and how the Sufi tradition says that yes, it is possible. And of course, in any spiritual path, that transformation comes. And then you are at peace, naturally. Your soul, for example, at one stage, the fourth one, you are at peace. And then you are happy, naturally happy, and so on. So, but now, in this stage, it is regret. It is regret. It's good. And speaking about the different characteristics, they are not problems in themselves. They are just telling us that we can transform them. So it's not that this is the end. It's a part of a dynamic in the journey. So we speak about self-awareness, not the self, the ultimate self, but it's a self, meaning the whole domain of our psychological aspect, becoming conscious, starting to become conscious of our wrong actions and thoughts. We may feel guilty or remorseful after committing a wrongdoing. In spirituality, this is associated with the first stage. It's named in Latin via purgativa. That means the purification path. Whatever, the pain and the suffering and the tears of regret, it's a part of the purification, but is a purification in the sense that we don't stuck there. It's not just reliving that sin or that problem again and again. That's why seeking forgiveness, so try to seek to open to God if there is this openness, looking for forgiveness. Now maybe it will be more clear why we tend to use we use that egg model of Assagioli, Roberto Assagioli, psychosynthesis, this egg model of the human being, where the I is here, this is the field of awareness, this is the lower unconscious, then it's this field of the middle unconscious, like things we tend to suppress, but still can be accessed. It's like we are conscious of them, but we prefer to ignore. And then higher unconscious. Still, we are not in very much contact with higher inspirations, but at least we start being aware of this domain. So our sphere of our field of awareness starts to expand a little bit more than in a previous stage, in the Nafs Satsang, the first one. And if initially, in that stage was more impulses of the lower unconscious, whatever desire, sexual drive, and it was just that impulse followed, now, we start to access this middle unconscious. The soul recognizes its personal limitations, errors. It corresponds with this boundary between the lower unconscious and the middle, where the individual starts becoming aware of their inner conflicts and is driven by the conscious. So I start becoming conscious. This I is still the individual I. In further levels of development, the field of awareness will expand, then there will be less of a veil here, more accessing this higher aspect, and then the communion with cosmic aspects will happen. But already it's a good step. It's, we can say, the beginning of a spiritual journey. In terms of characteristics, we have unsatisfaction, and it's good to look at us. Again, I remind you what I already mentioned a few times during these satsangs. It's not that you are only in one of such nafs. It's just there are parts that can be 30% of this still there. No? It can be something beautiful with a lot of inspirations from higher nafs, but there is also this tendency. And then we look, there is unsatisfaction. No? Complaining always for different reasons. Pain in the body, financial situation, relationships, and so on. There are people who are constantly in this insatisfaction. The job is not good. This, my life is like that. Constantly complaining, unsatisfaction. It can be that the reason, but it can be actually a deeper heaviness we have. And then no matter what, we find more reasons to be unsatisfied. No? Then worries about many things, even coming to a retreat. What clothes should I take? How would be there? I'm so stressed about starting a new retreat or a new journey. I will do this trip in another country. What if this and that and so on? No? Related to relationships, related to parents. What if he will do like this? What if constantly worries? Then hesitating in making decisions, doubts and mental conflicts, especially because there are these tendencies. On the one hand, there is this intuition or an aspiration, but on the other hand, sometimes our will is not so powerful and we are again taken by the old habits. And then hesitation. Also the regrets manifested, like regarding the previous love relationship, regarding life in general. I am sorry because I did that mistake. I shouldn't have done like this. I shouldn't have. And I do agree, we can understand. And indeed, it's good to realize that there were some mistakes in our life and we could have acted in a different way, but not to be stuck in that. No, you learn and then you go further. And then very much associated with all this complex of tendencies of the second nafs, hypocrisy, arrogance, anger, intolerance, spiritual pride, rigidity of belief, reactivity, self-righteousness, self-pity, defeatism, victimization, especially when, you know, this self-awareness is not so pointing upward, but more downward. Again, we are going to that first nafs, and then the ego is so powerful there. Also, inner struggle between the lower desires and the higher spiritual domain. You recognize this ego pull, and still you are sometimes not so strong enough for this. It's a very beautiful statement, quite renowned statement of Saint Augustine. He said, "Oh God, grant me chastity and continence, but not yet." So it's like I want this, but I'm afraid and I cannot face fully all this. But in this kind of ambivalence, still there is a beauty of an honesty. There is a beauty of a transparency, which often it doesn't happen to other people. Many people would have this, but they would never confess that. No, but Saint Augustine had that courage to open to the space of vulnerability and confess this. Actually, his book Confessions is he lived in in the 5th century after Christ and 4th century after Christ, and his book, The Confessions, is the first in this genre of confessions. So it's the first confession book ever written. We have some confessions in the Old Testament in which, in some Psalms, we hear that people regret, oh, my sins, oh God, forgive me. But a confession in this style to show, to just be honest and speak about your life and make a confession, no, which further developed even in the confession to the priest, and you make all that. It's starting with Saint Augustine. So it is like unlocking something in, we can say, even in human consciousness. He started first embracing Manichaeism, which was a dualistic religion, Neoplatonism, but it was because of his mother, Monica, she was Christian. He eventually came to Christianity and embraced Christianity, and then recognized his indulgence in lust and all these old tendencies that he had. And he wrote a lot about this nature of bad tendencies. For example, he confessed about how at the age of 16 he was stealing pears from a tree of a neighbor, together with some other friends, not because he was uh, hungry, not because he wanted to eat them later, but out of the thrill of doing something wrong, of doing something bad. And while this is not a big thing, still he would contemplate what this means and why human beings tend to do this, and how you allow such tendencies to happen, and you can orient your soul in a completely different way. And his transformation happened through grace. Uh, it's related to a moment um, in which, being in his garden, um, he just heard the voice of a child. It was not a physical child, but he heard the voice of a child who just said, "Tole lege," take up and read. Now this statement appears in many universities and so on, like, oh, come on, go and start reading. No, but that had a particular meaning in for Saint Augustine. Was a revelation. He took the Bible and started reading Paul's epistle to the Romans, and with that he was convinced. So he embraced Christianity. It was also the presence of some authentic bishops who, or people who helped him, supported him. But this was, for example, the story of um, Saint Augustine. While Saint Augustine, of course, is not, when we speak about Saint Augustine, of course, his soul went much deeper, and he speaks about deep states of contemplation. This stage was present in his life. And this regret was very present. Um, Another example, quite shocking example, was the example of Tolstoy, Leo Tolstoy. this great Russian writer, and it was not related to his youth. It was at the age of, after the age of 50, when after he wrote his big novels like War and Peace, Anna Karenina, he was very rich, so he was in the aristocrat class, but he felt an emptiness, meaningless. He was nihilist, so denying God, denying everything. But then he said, what's the point of all this life? He attained tremendous success, and he came to this stage of committing suicide. So he was in such an intense inner struggle that he wanted to commit suicide. What is the meaning of this life if it's just about this? And his regeneration was through nature, but mostly realizing the authenticity of faith. How simple people, so he was a person who had a big property and there were many peasants in that area, and those people have faith. They were not very intelligent and sophisticated like the intellectuals in the aristocratic circle of him, but those people have faith and they were happy and they are fulfilled. And he realized that through this openness to faith, he started feeling this. And also he wrote a book, A Confession, after these great novels of him, a kind of small book. It's a very beautiful one. I strongly recommend to, because it's the reflection of a refined artist, writer, and also very honest and profound searching without any prejudices and background of a religion or another. Of course, he came from the background of Christianity, but he wanted to just look in an authentic way to all things, and going into this a moral radiating from his soul. So he was again in a crisis, in a big crisis, regret about different tendencies and emptiness of his life. But then he went, so this is the beauty from, so some people are not lost just in that, no, they go further, deeper. And for Tolstoy, he resonated very much with the teachings of Jesus, especially the Sermon on the Mountain, that beautiful statements of Jesus, and particularly with that statement in Matthew, turn the other cheek. If you are, so don't oppose evil, turn the other cheek. And he went into, I would say, the literal meaning. I mean, in Christianity, people say, yes, these are the teachings of Jesus, but are more metaphorical. Turn the other cheek means to be humble, to be persistent in what you do with compassion and so on. But there were so many words. Christianity didn't follow literally turn the other cheek. And what Tolstoy said, no, this is just a deformation of the teachings of Jesus. He was so powerful in this that he was excommunicated by the Russian Orthodox Church, but he was just expressing this. No, this is not. And from this book of him, Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King were inspired. So that non-violent resistance which Mahatma Gandhi did is coming from this inspiration of Tolstoy, of this, no matter what, like the Tibetan Buddhists are doing, no? Compassion. It was, yes, an overwhelming power there, still compassion. Send compassion, not anger or not hate or not a need to revenge upon the aggressors. And since I mentioned this, I will briefly speak also about another example, Mahatma Gandhi. In the experience in his book, My Experience is with Truth, he also confesses such stages in his life. For example, when he was young, he was smoking, and he even was so addicted that he had some debts, and he stole some gold from a bracelet of his brother to pay his debts. And then he realized that this is not something to be done. So he wrote what he did, and he asked his father for punishment, and he also said that he will never do something like this in his life. And he was expecting his father to beat him or to punish him, but his father was weeping. And that had a very deep influence on him. And in this book, with like experiments with truth, because he wanted just to be totally sincere, he brought this satyagraha, or being or embracing unconditionally the truth, being honest, no matter what. So not caring about. So, and he confessed how in the night when his father died, he just went to make love with his wife. It was just because of this desire to make love, he left his father exactly in that night when his father died. And that was a big regret for him. But he confessed that, and later on he made this commitment to brahmacharya, to the abstinence, and then he spoke about how difficult that was for him, or some tendencies were still there, but making this not just a personal story, but like a spiritual leader. He was not necessarily an example of a guru in that sense of, oh, I am realized and so on. So he was just with that total commitment to truth, like a human being who wants to be in total honesty and truthfulness. And yes, things are difficult, but this is how they are. And this is how I am acting. And that was, of course, of a tremendous impact of so many people. So you see this Nafs al-Lawama, the second one, is a nafs of regret, but this can be turned very beautifully in different uplifting aspects. We have this tendency to complain, to be unsatisfied. And it's interesting that in Chinese, the word complain is composed by two characters, bao and yuan. Bao, to hold or to embrace or to hug, we can say. Yuan is resentment, grievance, or more generally ego. So complaining is hugging your ego. Whenever you complain, you are hugging resentment, grievance, but you are hugging your ego. To hug the resentment, to hug the ego. So to be indulged in that, that means to hold tightly, to focus, to give the attention to that little self, and in this way to feel cut off from this abundance of the present moment, of the sacredness of being. This attitude blinds the soul from perceiving this great abundance and richness of the inner and outer cosmos dimensions. So if the ego is trapped in a pattern of complaint, we are incapable of appreciating reality, God or ourselves in a deep sense. Yes. Now, further about the spiritual limitations of Nafs Lawama. So what will be the limitations related to this complaining nafs? Inconsistent commitment, because it's a still struggle with inconsistency in commitment to spiritual disciplines and practices. I want, but then I cannot. I would like, but I am not yet able. Moral ambiguity, still wavering between following lower desires and seeking higher spiritual aspirations. Now we would like, or we aim and we resonate with something. We went to a satsang and it was so uplifting, or we read a poem or a book and it's so convincing, but then again we are lost in our old addictions or dark domains and so on, which is also related to insufficient willpower. So it's not yet that capacity to surrender to a higher reality. Actually, at this level, we are not referring yet too much to a higher reality. It's more a psychological insight. I realize that my life is not okay. I don't rely yet too much on surrender to God or this. Of course, again, these are not just separate things. It's like a complex reality, but this particular aspect or dimension of the second nafs speaks more about some psychological transformations, not spiritual insights yet. So we can repeat mistakes. We commit, we want to do some good things, but then we cannot, and we see the lack of willpower in general is something that is so present in our times. People buy machines to whatever, do exercises at home to transform their body, to transform, and then they wouldn't have time, energy, perseverance. They want to do a diet, but then it's not enough, or they cannot, or whatever, no? Then also here it's excessive guilt and overwhelm. This might lead to despair and a sense that we cannot truly change or become better. So it's like it doesn't feel that an end of that situation will appear. This is what I saw, unfortunately, so often happening for so many people. No? That light, that trust. And basically, often what it's happening when we have a private meeting and is just saying a problem, and then it's a light, a hope, faith. And then, of course, it's beautiful to see that light or of hope or of a smile from that kind of narrow perspective. Now, yes, it's possible. Something can be easy or can be transformed. And then if there is a perseverance, that transformation is like being on a different track, and that transformation is possible. Otherwise, we stay in this guilt. And that despair is not something that will help or bring an evolution. Yes, a sense of acknowledgement that something was wrong is good, but then it's also the time you repent, you express that I'm sorry. It's a commitment. If you want to bring the energy, it's an energy there around all that situation. I made that sin, or I made that. No, it's a whole energy. I regret so much. I regret so much. That is an energy that can be transformed, can be directed in a commitment. All that pain, all that regret goes into a determination. I will never repeat this. And that, with this, in a very consistent and not a shallow way, with that determination, and whenever that, no way, I will not repeat that. In that commitment, then you'll see more and more freedom in that. And because of all this overwhelm, it's a potential for despair, because it's like if we don't have the spiritual tools, then we feel just lost. It's like, I know I made the mistake, but then how can I be free from that, and feels that I'm hopeless in that. Also, other spiritual limitations of Nafs al-Lawama, self-deception. We may sometimes deceive ourselves just thinking or believing that we are making spiritual progresses when we just indulge in self-pity or in a form of spiritual narcissism. Often people are doing this. No, they would say, I am still working with that. In what way are you working with that problem? Well, I cry because of that loss, or I just suffering is not working. I let myself to grieve. Okay, it's good that you let yourself to grieve, but that is just the beginning. I work just staying in that grief for years is not really working. It's just, yes, you acknowledge that. It's not really a spiritual work. Grieving, yes, it's a part. It's not that I would judge or criticize this. If it comes, it comes. It's not that we should repress in any way, but something more than this is possible. And then with this can come also self-centeredness, in the sense of excessive preoccupation with ourselves, our feelings, our struggles, our progress. No, instead of focusing on the spiritual heart or on the divine, it's our problem. No, it doesn't matter what is happening with others, or so. It's just about my thing. And then sometimes I have the tendency to project that. The whole cosmos is about my thing. I see in that spiritual community is the problem. I have a problem, and then I can see it everywhere, or I tend to project that, or seems like a cosmic thing, or how can you do this when all the world is suffering like this and like that? But it's just me living in a hell, and then why people are laughing after this is shallow. If people are laughing, it's shallow. I'm in that suffering, and if people are happy, it's just showing some things which are not okay, or it's a problem with them, and so on. And also, it's a narcissism. It's an ego-oriented tendency there, and the Sufi tradition speaks about this. When we just focus on our problems and we get stuck there, this complaining is a form of, and regret, even regret, is a form of narcissism. We wouldn't expect to have this, but is like this. Also, an internal struggle, turmoil, conflict, which brings a sense of anxiety, indecisive, unsettled, this desperation, and we are spiritually unsettled. It's a heaviness. We are in a fight, inner fight, constantly. And yes, there were periods like this for Saint Augustine, for Mahatma Gandhi, for Tolstoy, So it's not that they should be rejected or they don't happen, but it's also not living all the time there. So it's with that, out of all that struggle, what results is either skepticism, so the vector goes down, just ego, more ego, attachment to my ego and my story, or up, a longing for freedom. So it's a struggle, and then that's why it's a turning point, this nafs al-lawama. Either I remain in that or emphasize even more the ego, or I'm going upper into higher aspects. And then, yes, that is like an impetus to free myself. No? Also, there can be a problem in incomplete repentance. So, although we feel guilt and remorse, our repentance might be superficial or motivated by fear of divine punishment rather than pure love for truth, the beloved, the divine. So it's more of an artificial or still a lack of a true perspective. We are still caught in some limited patterns or dogmas, and then our motivation is not pure enough. Our motivation is not pure enough, because if I change things only out of fear of whatever fear or whatever hope for a paradise or some special recompense, I still stay in my projections. And it's a very beautiful story about Rabia, this great mystic of Sufism. She was one of the first mystics. She was an inspiration for Rumi. She lived in the 8th century. Rumi lived in the 13th, 12th, 13th century. She said, you see, she has a torch and a pot. She said, I carry a torch in one hand and a bucket of water in the other. With these things, I'm going to set fire to heaven, so to put the heaven on fire, and to put out flames of hell, so that people will not worship God for want of heaven or fear of hell, but simply out of love. So basically saying, let's drop these ideas of heaven and hell and just open to that unconditional love. And she also have a prayer like this: oh God, if I pray to you in fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I pray to you in hope for paradise, exclude me from paradise. But if I pray to you for thy own beauty, don't take from me your everlasting grace. So it's like this, with no personal or limited projection, just out of that authentic longing there. Now, regarding the main shadows or subconscious tendencies, shadows, things which we may not acknowledge fully, which are there in Nafs al-Lawama, there is this excessive guilt. We carry a sense of excessive guilt. I am guilty. I am guilty. I may not know why and how, but my life is like I carry this sense of a karma, a sense of despair and hopelessness, continuously focusing on defects without recognizing the divine boundless grace. So it's a sense that yes, grace exists, but my case is with no hope. I don't have any hope. No, it's like I don't trust. I don't trust that no matter what, that faith that can move mountains, not a dogmatic faith. It's just that openness in which no matter what personal will be embraced in that higher reality. But if I trust my belief is just this, I cannot, is too much, this is forever, this is just selfish. No? We may say, well, but we should need compassion for, and it is compassion. I'm not saying that we should judge such a person, but also we should understand that continuing like this will continue to suffer. This is not, no, it's not that there is nothing beyond redemption. No matter, crimes were done. Milarepa started killing many people, including his uncle and so on, through black magic, because whatever he did, that man did to his family, and his mother pushed. And then he became the greatest yogi of Tibet. And many, many stories of mystics, or especially in the, we can find in the Orthodox Christianity, stories like this, so people who will do a lot of kind of sins, but then that grace was there beyond that. No? So, or that we are not worthy of God's love. We are not worthy. We cannot receive that. Avoidance of responsibilities. It's a sense of constantly avoiding this and tending to attribute our defects to external circumstances or other people. This is another tendency to project and to consider that others are guilty, or it's a problem with the community, not with me. It's the Sangha which is having that issue or things. So not taking the responsibility or trying to understand why that happened or how that is happening, or then an inertia due to self-reproach. We are just caught in that, overthinking again and again. Of course, when a thing is happening, it is a time of suffering, it is a time of being shocked or overwhelmed, but then if we stay just in that, that definitely will not be healthy and wise. And then that idea, I am not worthy to, it happens in the teacher training course, or people say, oh, how can I be worthy to teach yoga, or how can I be, also the Lavama would say, it's always in connection with me. So Sahaja now is speaking about me. No? Sahaja is speaking about me. No? This is also a shadow of that. Yes. Well, I may speak. But, that sense of guilt and the sense that everything is pointing to you, everything is like, oh, it's about me, no? And how can I teach, or how can I ever be able to share to others if I'm not, because I'm not worthy? Indeed, it's not that you have to say that you are a realized master or that, but still, yes, many things your soul can unfold, and you can definitely can share the beauty of your being, and so many gifts, each of us. But if we stay and we let our ego just put this barrier, I am not worthy enough, I cannot, and so on, of course, that creativity and that inspiration will not flow. And then self-deception, in the sense that if we just recognize these defects of ours, this would be sufficient. Yes, it's the starting point, but it's not the end. It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. No, like in this kind of joke. No, I am not ready to improve my life. I'm still in the complaining stage. No, and it's like this. But you can find in spirituality people in this complaining stage all their life. No, all their life. And that's why I'm going to show now a way of dealing with such vulnerabilities and wounds and sense of not being worthy enough. So it's like a parenthesis in this. We'll continue with these characteristics and then remedies. But now, since we spoke already about all these characteristics, what would be a step-by-step approach to this? So first, it's about an understanding of the nature and the causes of this. So confronting vulnerabilities and wounds and this sense of not being worthy and so on with divine qualities. That means cultivating the opposites, as Patanjali said, truthfulness, love, compassion, or divine qualities like this with even a more profound power. It's that taste of the absolute. When we say about Anal Haq, the truth, the divine truth. It's just the truthfulness, but it's in its perfection, as in yoga also we have this satya. The root of satya is sat, which means existence. So it's the very root of everything. So let's start and look at this. We have wounds, we have problems. How they appear. So what is the nature and the causes of these wounds? We encounter different situations that challenge us emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They can originate from our childhood, from different conditionings, from different past traumas. So initially the cause is, the yoga would say, avidya, ignorance, the sense of separation. But of course, we in specific circumstances, and it's true, as a child, there was a sense of abuse or violence or so. So that created for us a wounds. These challenges, disappointments, betrayals, leave scars on our psyche. So all these situations leave like wounds, create wounds for us. And vulnerabilities. They are the tender spots that trigger strong reactions when poked. And often we are not even fully aware of their existence or of their roots. We are very strongly reacting to something, and we don't understand why fully, but it's there. We are very sensitive. Sometimes it's quite obvious. We have a meeting and then your friend will say, please don't mention about her ex because she will start crying. It's like triggering. If you mention about the ex-lover, she will start crying. It's like a trigger. It's a very clear trigger there. So in so much, we are sometimes in such an intense thing, we are pulled by some things. If you do something like that, your friend will become angry, because he's reacting, because he has these points of sensitivity. Somebody else will just smile or will just remain in non-reaction, because that is not a wound for him or for her. Yes? So these spots are really the sensitive areas. I don't know what happened. We create out of that, the spots, the black spots are there. Defensive mechanism. Out of that, we tend to protect. So they are there, and then we tend to, it's like we create a wall. Imagine that we create a wall to protect a wound, to protect something that is sensitive, and then to protect ourselves from pain of these wounds, we create defenses which would prevent anything to touch that it can be avoidance behaviors, denial, aggression, a self-critical sense of humor, cynicism. For example, if I have a deep wound related to relationships and love, whenever romantic love will be mentioned, I will become these people with the romantic love, and so I'll become critical. Or about my ex-friend who created so many wounds to me, I will just make some jokes, but in a very cynical way. So all these things are ways of protecting myself, no, from that thing that is really painful to me, and I don't want yet to acknowledge fully. So over time, the problem is that this might become barriers to our growth and authentic expression. Now, so this is the situation. What is happening? Now we are going to speak about how this healing process can and should be happening for us. First, in the healing process would be a recognition and acknowledgement of that situation, of our wounds, without veils of our defenses. Yes, this is the case. Yes, I don't like to acknowledge, but yes, it's not that I don't like romantic love. Actually, I'm longing for that, but I was so disappointed that I created that veil of cynicism or whatever. But actually, I'm missing, or I feel jealousy, or I feel that I would like what others. So I drop that. This, of course, involves introspection. No, Hridaya meditation, self-inquiry can reveal these hidden areas of pain. Of course, speaking more generally, people can have different, even psychotherapy in this stage can be very helpful in a recognition. You recognize what are the sensitive aspects. When you recognize that, the next step is to lower the defenses. So to drop those walls of separation. No, it's a willing, conscious act of lower the defenses. It's an act of courage. No, as this like Gandhi, and he recognized the tendency to. He was addicted to smoking, and he still, and then he recognized all this, and means being open and vulnerable. Now, what people would say, what others, so what? No, I am open, and there is vulnerability, willing to feel the pain and face it without reacting. So by recognizing and accepting our vulnerabilities, we create space for healing. So this is the first step. But again, it is important to understand that this is not about re-traumatizing ourselves. It is not about living again and again that pain, but about meeting pain with compassion. So yes, when I was a child, my parents or whatever happened, and confronted with so much suffering, and I closed my heart. And then I developed that cynical attitude, and then I also wounded many people in my life. And now I recognize all this. And then it's not about blaming, or this was all that I could do as a child, was the only answer that I could have to that, closing and responding with that violence or anger or whatever. Now is a time to open that and look at that. And sometimes, for example, a person who would kill people or so, they avoid, because if they would look in the dimension of what they are doing, that would be a tremendous pain or And then they prefer not to think or speak about this. So even in the armies, when people are in this kind of, they are very much into avoidance. I remember a man from a kind of secret service who understood about that they were involved in some secret activities, and yes, they were in some kind intense situations, and he understood all that, and he followed psychology. Then he even practiced retreats, did many meditations, Hridaya retreats. He even became a Hridaya teacher. He's also a professor of psychology. But he said, I understood. And then there are times when now we still meet those people who were involved in those activities, and we never spoke. We never speak about what happened there. And I can see the relationship they have with their family, with their children. Everything is under control and not letting that vulnerability. It's a fear there, because then it's a hell if you open that, but you need to confront all this sooner or later in this life, in another life, that needs to be confronted. So it's just this, but you confront it embracing with compassion, because now you see in a different way. It's not just that yet caught in circumstances. You have this wisdom, and then you act, not staying and being indulged. Here is the stage when some people are just stuck. No, I acknowledge it's that sense of vulnerability, but I suffer, and I suffer, and I regret, and I regret, and so on. In Buddhism, there is a parable of the arrow, a beautiful parable, which even it seems that even Buddha taught it. When a poisoned arrow touches somebody, no, that person, before taking the arrow, would say, no, stop. First, I need to know what kind of poison is this, from what direction, what kind of bow of that, the stick of the arrow, what kind of stick is the stick of the arrow. So trying to understand all this, and then the effect of the poison manifests and the person dies. Rather than taking it out immediately. No? So the remedy is that take it out. So drop that poison, that kind of whatever problem is there is like a poison. You just don't stay and trying to analyze again and again, but how it happened, why it was like this, and I remember in that evening how it was, and he did this, and I did that, and so on. It's the time to take it out, so not to keep that. No? Now, in the healing process, now after we allow that space of vulnerability and acknowledge, now we allow the divine qualities to penetrate. So in all spiritual traditions, once we open up our wounds, we are not left to face them alone. The spiritual heart, the divine, the universal healing energy comes. God is an unending source of these pure qualities. That's why in Hridaya is this self-inquiry. With this, who am I? And in that vastness and space of trust, everything is healed, everything. But of course, we need to trust and to open to that. So it's not that I just open that Pandora box and then I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed by so many subconscious tendencies and guilts and fears, and who am I? It's also, and this is, I would say, the essential step in the healing process. It's only from now when you bring the opposite. You bring that quality to the remedy, to that poison or to that whatever we may know, we may name. So we invite such energy into our wounds. So practically this means meditating on qualities like love, compassion, forgiveness, or understanding, and directing these energies towards our wounds. In the Sufi tradition, we have the tradition of the names, the divine names. And it's exactly about this, no? The majesty, the beauty, love, as a way, the truth, as a way of compensating no matter what. No? This tremendous power that these energies can bring. Everything can be healed with that. So this is allowing the divine qualities to penetrate. And with this, the healing process, we can say, is complete. Now we can speak about another stage of transformation, in which, I mean, it's also, we can say, all it's part of the healing, but now we can understand how in this alchemy of pain, the pain, when met with pure unconditional love and understanding and compassion, starts to transform. Our wounds, which once were sources of pain, becomes now sources of strength. So that's why it's more than the healing. Now it's, you radiate a trust, no? Wisdom, compassion. So we are replacing pain, shame, or fear with love, compassion, and understanding. It's not a mere intellectual exercise, but a deeply felt experience. It's like pouring cleansing water on a wound, or like a piece of coal under the pressure becoming a diamond. And then you can heal and help others, because you know, you have this problem. I also passed through that. And it's a compassion and an understanding. It's not that, oh, what is this person? I passed through that hell, but look, I am free now. I can help you. So it's more than just that I heal myself. It's in that an alchemy in which what used to be just a problem now becomes a strength, because you know that that energy can be transformed, and you radiate something which is much profound than that. No, you are not the charcoal anymore, you are the diamond. And with this comes an expansion of consciousness in the same process of transformation. So it's not about just healing all traumas, but it's about expansion of our consciousness. So as we clear out our old wounds, we make space for new insights, deeper understanding, a more profound connection to the divine. Now we are not caught anymore in that. We are available for others also, to support others, because we have this so many insights, or that which used to be a problem, it's not anymore, but it's a source of insight. No? Meister Eckhart, a great Christian mystic, wrote a book, the Book of Divine Consolations, which is exactly about how you can see your problems and how you can consolate yourself by referring to these cosmic aspects in the life of Jesus, or understanding that there are higher realities than your ego little story. And this is an expansion of consciousness. It shows us that we can see things in a wider way. And then the full process ends with an integration. So the healed wounds are integrated completely into our being. So then, instead of a scar, it becomes a mark on our journey, fully integrated. No, our challenges and our victories are all part of that. no, of this journey is not anymore a point of weakness, but a source of strength, wisdom, and compassion. They transform from being our vulnerabilities to becoming our gifts. It's a gift. I'm grateful for all that stage or all that, because it teaches us empathy, and now I can help others. I know resilience. I know how to guide others. It's a depth of the soul that brought a depth. I know. I saw this in, I have the chance, the grace to participate to some Alcoholics Anonymous, Alcoholic Anonymous meetings. I was supporting somebody there, and I could see there these people passed. These people were people who were alcoholics. They actually defined themselves, and this is something else. I wouldn't recommend this, but they still would define themselves as alcoholic, even they dropped out 20 years ago or whatever, just out of precautions, not to imagine that they are strong enough, and then they would be not, but they were so willing to help, and they were so much wanting to share their experience and others in just, so it was not anymore just about their problem. Their problem was solved. They were integrated and everything, but it was, and I could see they were normal people, let's say, so not with a spiritual endeavor or following yoga or a spiritual path, but they were much more conscious people than, let's say, common people. There was much more compassion and much more love and care in such a group of people. So it was, yeah, deeply, it was a depth. It was a depth there. They passed through suffering. Yes, they said, well, my child is not loving me because in all his child, I was not there. I was not present with him. So person would share this. I remember sharing this and, facing all that, but with that vulnerability and that still an integration, an acceptance of them. So just to resume, we have now those wounds, how we tend to create barriers, and then the healing process, acknowledging and recognition, lowering the defenses, then allowing the divine qualities to penetrate, like Patanjali said, bringing the opposite, and in general, not necessarily the opposites, any divine quality, love or compassion or beauty, or it's essentially the same sacred tremor of the heart we name in yoga, yes? And then is the transformation, which is this alchemy of pain. Then, it's the transformation, and then the expansion of consciousness, and then the fully integration of that, which is not anymore a scar or a problem, but it's a strength for us. And because I gave that metaphor of the charcoal that becomes diamond, it's a beautiful metaphor because it teaches us many things. It's the charcoal which, under the earth, under a huge pressure and temperature, in time, after a long time, becomes a diamond. And we find diamonds, not we, but some people. Would be good if we would find with detachment, but people find diamonds, and then it's not just about finding diamonds, it's also about polishing them, because they are still raw, but then polishing, again, something else needs to be there, And then it's exactly like this in our life, Embrace challenges, They push us out of our comfort zones, The beginning of such a transformation, it's about, it's Otherwise, I stay in just that problem. But this metaphor is telling us that it's heat there, no? In the depth of the earth, pressure and heat. A lot of, in order to become diamond, you need to have a lot of pressure and heat or awareness. It's not, I'm not saying that always through suffering or to an intense such challenges we are transformed. Some people can just have a much lighter journey. But when that is needed, when there are a lot of wounds, that pressure and the heat like the charcoal is a part of the transformation. They push us from out of the comfort zone. Then it's also a matter of acknowledging the potential within. Any charcoal is a diamond in potentiality. It's a raw beauty there. In any pain, it's that strength. And we acknowledge it's not in itself is just the pain, but through that awareness and freedom of wisdom, there, it's divine. Then you recognize, yes, everything is divine. How that it's a potential there. So you acknowledge that potential even in that wound. Then we understand the value of patience and persistence, and then we understand the importance of a continuous refinement, which in the end will make the diamond shine in so many ways. We will conclude now because yes, yeah, but still we made some steps in this journey, and I hope that this clarification, which I see it happens to many things stuck in regrets and problems, and all this step-by-step journey will inspire us. Next satsang, we will, now it's a little bit too late, we'll just conclude with a meditation on light again. But next satsang, we'll even do experientially. So we may choose, we can do till then, but we will do also then. We may choose a wound or something we don't feel comfortable, we are very reactive to, and then how we, in a inner process, we drop the protective barriers, and then the transformation comes and the healing comes. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have a question from the previous satsang, but also is correlated with this one about Asagnoli.
Yes, Asajoli, this.
Asajoli eggs diagram.
Yes.
I contemplated a little bit, and I found there at the first level.
Yes, so it's a question. Sorry, it's a question about the Asajoli diagram. Yes.
Yeah, was that? Yes. At the first level, you mentioned in the previous satsang about Nigredo stage.
Yes.
And also, you mentioned today that Nafs Lavama.
Yes, this second one. Yes.
Correlated with the middle unconscious.
Yes.
Actually, with the albedo stage.
Yeah.
Could we say that if we pass from Nafs
The first one, from the first one.
The second one, we passed to the next stage.
So the question is if we, indeed, in that first presentation, Asajoli made in a very kind of simple, synthetic way, would connect lower unconscious with the first stage in alchemy, that nigredo, then albedo with the middle unconscious, and rubedo, or the kind of connection with the spirit, the last one. So that is like a scheme with 3 stages. We have 7 stages like this, so we go slower and slower, slower. So it's not like this. It's not yet that stage of albedo. That purification will come, I would say, with the 4th stage. With the 4th stage, yes.
Because in Nafs there are a lot of suffering.
Yes, still it's stage of nigredo. Still it's, we kind of move, the shaking starts happening, the work really starts happening, but no, it's still in that nigredo stage, yes. Okay. If there are no other questions, then yes, yes.
How do you know when you are free of avoidance or cynicism and opening to your wounds? It seems easy to trick yourself.
It can be easy to trick yourself if you still keep those barriers in. That's why it's good to do self-inquiry, and it's an aspiration to honesty. No, we say in yoga, it is the truth that reveals the truth. So the deeper we acknowledge this honesty, the clear will come. Yes, in front of others you may pretend, but with yourself you cannot just lie yourself if that is a authentic aspiration. So it is important to keep this, otherwise indeed we will get caught. Even that is a grace, even that wisdom is true, even that wisdom to realize that, yeah, you are just deceiving yourself. You are just projecting on others, or preferring to live in whatever. No, it's still the kind of avoidance. But through meditation, through self-awareness, you realize that that is not helpful. It's not supporting any spiritual growth and any transformation. And then, yes, it is a matter of grace, even this, the capacity of confronting. And if not, it may happen also through suffering. Even more will happen. You continue to go in that tendency, and again it's a denial, and again you have the same problem, and again the same problem, till you realize, till hopefully you realize, no, this is not the way I want to live my life. No, it's not the way I want to live. But this self-awareness, this focus on the heart, is very beautiful in the Sufi tradition, because it's a journey that it's not gives us this understanding that this life is about an inner transformation. No, this life, yes, it's about me having a bigger car and having a successful job and having this and that, and still I remain in the same lying and the same manipulating tendencies and the same avoidance. And then the question comes, till when? Till when I continue to lie? Till when I will be manipulative? Till when I will stay in that regret and that way of compensating? Just till when? And then we realize that the real transformation is when we drop this, That is an evolution of the soul. Otherwise, it's just passing through this samsara, just doing different things still living in that cage of the ego, trying to modify there in the room of the prison, the bed, he changed the position, it's more space now. No? But it's the same prison. Yes? Yes?
Concerning the focusing on qualities opposed to defects, is this really effective? Has someone made it to change himself like that? I feel like this is quite challenging to follow the opposite if we are identified with old patterns, especially at this stage of the soul. I find witnessing or active practice more useful than trying to cultivate the opposite of what I don't want.
Whatever can be inspiring for you can be and should be followed. But we shouldn't see these divine qualities as something, it's too much for me or I don't want. I am so selfish, and then compassion. So what's the problem with compassion or purity? Yes, I may not, is not my passion purity, but I just open, or peace. No? I just open to peace. I may be, it's not that needs to be your main passion or your main feature of your being, but we just open to such divine qualities without the need to be in themselves our things that are become our strong points. For example, in the Sufi tradition, according to the dynamic of the journey, the master will recommend to meditate on a quality on a divine quality that is missing, or one which is already there. So, for example, I have my issues, but I have also purity in my soul. Then meditating on purity is supporting me and guiding me. Or I have issues with truthfulness, and then exactly the opposite. I mean, meditating on truth will help. So again, is not just rigid. That's why it is said that it's very much emphasized. A conscious being or a master should help, or is good to help such a person when dealing with this. But there are also such divine qualities that anyhow will help, like light, no? That it's anyhow purifying, or love, or in any situation, in any circumstance. But yes, when we will speak more about the remedies, we will speak also about witnessing, about detachment. Yes, so all these are remedies. For us is not now to be picky or to complain, or no, because our pattern is, no, we complain. We complain now even about the remedies, no? The remedy is not good enough, or we want another remedy, or this remedy, or should it be, no? Our tendency to complain, no? Our tendency to complain. They are different remedies, and then we embrace whatever we resonate, whatever will work. Maybe some will not work, but we just open to them. It's just like this. Yes? Yes?
We talked about cultivating the opposite emotion. I wonder what is the opposite of jealousy. So what opposite to cultivate in case of jealousy? Love?
Yes, love, generosity. Yes. Yes, love and generosity. Yes. Okay, let's conclude with a short moment of evoking light, An-Nur. divine, the essence of our heart as light, healing our soul with light. Close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Relaxation. Interiorization. Centering ourselves in the middle of the chest, a little to the right. The openness of the heart. The openness to light. And with exhalation, Ya. With inhalation, Nur. O, light. Exhalation, O. Inhalation, light. As divine and sacred. A sacred light. Ya, Nur. Ya, Nur. sense of divine light in our heart, may conclude our satsang.